Have you ever thought about what you're going to do as a yoga teacher beyond group classes? Or ever wondered how you could sustain yourself as a yoga teacher and leave your full-time job? I had a lot of these questions too on my journey. So today I want to share a little bit about how I went from teaching group classes to having a more sustainable yoga business that's online and allows me to do what I want. Let's get started. So first things first, like many yoga teachers, I started out in the exact same place that you're probably at right now, which is after my teacher training, I was doing a bunch of group classes and it was just the best experience, right? I was totally loving it. Teaching all the group classes I could get my hands on. And honestly, my very first class was like several hours because we weren't on a time constraint. And so I just way overdid it by explaining things. I basically workshopped a class. And it took time for me to like wind that down, right? And then keep it in a class and be done on time and not be workshopping stuff. But over the next couple of years, I made this transition that many yoga teachers make where I had this job, but I started like increasing how many yoga classes I would teach until eventually I brought it to a place where teaching group classes was my sole job, my sole income, and I used that as a way to travel because I would get jobs at different studios and relocate. Okay, so that was cool until I had a handful of bad experiences really take me for a run. I'll talk about those in some other videos, but essentially at one studio in one place, I was living in this really dodgy apartment that they provided, and they wanted me to do all these hours in the morning for classes and then be around even if there was no privates booked, and then teach multiple classes more in the evening and spend the whole day just kind of teaching and being on standby. And at this point, there were some other factors, but I knew this was not what I wanted to be doing as a yoga teacher. It wasn't sustainable in my body. It wasn't sustainable in the sense like I felt purpose. It wasn't sustainable financially. It was just me like cutting my teeth and getting experience. And I do want to give credit, like the studio gave me opportunity and they threw me into a bunch of classes. There was hot classes. They gave me experience to get started with my yin classes. They helped me develop more as a teacher, and I got to work with some other really cool teachers. But I realized after a few months that this was not something I could keep going. So what did I do? Well, I ended up leaving the studio and moving into teacher trainings. And this was helpful. I got to teach a bit more of the theory. I got to interact with different students every month, and I got to go deep with the students for the whole month because it was an intense or immersive teacher training. So pretty cool, but same problem, right? Like you only get paid X amount of dollars per class, and to make more money, you have to teach more classes. And even if money wasn't a factor in your life or my life, there's still the time factor, which was that I had to be on campus to deliver the classes. And once I delivered them once, basically my efforts disappeared and I had to restart all over again. So at the time it was okay. It gave me an opportunity to, again, grow, refine my skills, learn more theory, be around other amazing teachers, get firsthand feedback from students. All of that was wonderful, but I was really looking to continue leveling this up, right? I come from a business background, so I knew that there was better opportunities than just doing like a time for money exchange and trying to make this as my career. So thankfully, due to a certain situation that happened globally, I started getting into doing some free classes. And with the free classes, I was really just getting more and more refined in my theory, not my theory, but my topics, and like the message that I was delivering. And more important beyond that was I was learning how to use social media to attract students, get them to come into my free yin class, and then keep them over time, okay? So very, very powerful. This was great, but I wanted to start moving to the next level. And I knew that I could when I had multiple students giving me some donations after these classes. So with all that in mind, I started making a subscription, right? A membership. And I would post a couple videos a month, and then that way people who couldn't make it to the live classes could always have access to all the recordings. And I did that for about a year and a half. It worked out pretty good. And there were some very valuable lessons I learned. Number one, I saw what it was like to build up a small membership, one person, one student at a time. So that was cool. I also learned how I could create content in a tight schedule all at once, or like in a very short time. And then using scheduling, I could schedule the content to go out. And I actually did that for several months, nearly a year. And basically the videos came out on subscription, on the membership, and I just collected the fees, right? The charges. So that was cool. I didn't make, thousands of dollars a month or anything. It was just a few $100 here and there, but the concept was there. And I could have done a lot more if I'd done more like social media posting about it, but I knew that this wasn't the full end goal I was trying to reach at. And at the same time, I was preparing and launching a mini course. Okay, so the mini course was essentially a handful of live classes that expanded on the yin I was already teaching, and they were focused on helping people who wanted to learn how to do the splits. I also included some asana clinic where we broke down how to safely enter, experiment with, and exit the asana, as well as, modifications, contraindications, variations, that sort of thing. So that was very cool. And in that point, I was selling it for about $90. And I was just connecting with people, chatting with people in the DMs on IG. And then once they agreed, I'd chat with them and we'd see like, hey, is this something you'd be interested in? Is this a good fit? Here's when we're starting. Here's how much it is. Once they agreed, I sent over a PayPal link, and doing this, I made my first $1,000 offering a mini course, right? So really cool. I don't push the mini course now. But I could. I have all the videos, I have all the content. I could make it much better now. Back in the day when I did this, I literally just had some Zoom calls and a Facebook group. That was it. And I did the Zoom calls live, recorded them, put them in the Facebook group, recorded some other videos, put those in the Facebook group. And then when people signed up, they got the live and the recordings in the Facebook group. So super low budget, super low key. I made my first $1,000 doing that, and that was really cool. But again, it's honestly, for a lot of yoga teachers, and myself included, it was a struggle to chase people down for $10, $50, $100. Even doing 5 to 10 class passes for privates, it's still a lot of effort to chase people down for $2 to $3, $4, $5, even $500, right? Particularly because you have, especially with privates, you have to keep delivering the privates. So even if you get 10 students a month at $500 each, you still have to manually deliver all those asana classes, which in theory, all you're doing is cutting out the middleman, the yoga studio, right? So that was one option. It was cool. I learned some things, but I still wanted to take this further. And the final stage here is building a course. And the course allowed me to really incorporate a lot of the things I'd learned in delivering Zoom classes, in delivering a membership, in delivering a mini course, and combine it all together. Here's where the major difference is, and how the course allowed me to really take off at a level that I didn't really want to pursue, if I'm being honest, doing group classes and privates and memberships, because all those things you have to keep doing everything over and over again. Otherwise, the cycle stops, What I'd rather have is one asset that is built and established, and then I can continuously promote it on social media, and I can continue to enhance my core offer. All right, so that was an extremely powerful point in my journey. And at that point, I realized I need to film my theory, right? My instructions, my tutorials, all of that, and put them in the order that is most beneficial to students. And then at certain points along that journey, require the students to send in homework to prove that they're taking the steps and doing the actions, right? Along that journey, I would provide, and still do, regular Zoom calls for the group, so that we can all have that structure and support. Here's the difference though, right? When students come in, they watch the videos on their own schedule, so they progress at their own pace. But me, I provide the structure and the discipline of a regular Zoom call. Yeah. So here's the juicy part that is totally different from group classes, privates, or even a membership, is that once I recorded the theory, I did not need to repeat myself over and over again. So it was a lot of upfront work, right, that I didn't get paid for. And not completely, I didn't build the whole course up front. I built a little bit, and it was based off feedback from students I had interviewed and what they wanted and what I was capable of. And so I built the first few chapters, and at this time, I didn't even have all the course complete. And I was bringing in students. And then as students came into the course, I was following the path I wanted to take them on, but I modified based on where they were at, what they were capable of, what they were looking for. And I was always just a few chapters ahead of them, 2 to 3 chapters of my most advanced. And when I say advanced, I mean the students who've gone the furthest in the course content. So what this does is it allows me to record all the content once and repeat this exact same message to everyone who signs up simultaneously. Without having to repeat myself in the theory, I can really go deep and support the students where they're at on the group calls. And here's the better part, the best part about the group calls, is that like group asana classes, everyone comes at the same time and they bring where they're at in their journey, and I support them regardless of where they're at. So I have some students who are on chapter 15 of my course, and they're on the exact same calls as students in chapter 9 and students in chapter 1. And the reason for that is because I want to manage my schedule very effectively, and I don't want to be paid on a time for money basis. So this way I bring everyone together and I provide structure, right? Students in my course, when they start out, they may be doing something during one of the calls, but by the time they're in the course for a few months, they rearrange their schedule so they're always available for the calls, right? So what this means is I can help multiple people in 1 or 2 classes per week for an hour of support, and the majority of the training happens outside of that. This gives me freedom. This gives me leverage. And by leverage, I mean I can keep onboarding or enrolling students. And no matter how many students I bring in, my workload stays the same because everybody comes to the group calls, okay? And they're watching the videos and doing the homework on their own. So this is the evolution of my journey, right? Going from teacher training, teaching at studios, teaching at teacher trainings, and then doing my membership and my free classes online, then my mini course, then my full-blown course, right? So there's just clear trajectory upwards. And the beautiful part is that I can keep building on all of these things. I can add memberships if I want. I could add other products or services, but my course is still going to run. So this is a complete change from how I first entered yoga, and it's brought me through an incredible journey. I've been able to support my family. I've been able to move around the world. Earlier this year, I moved from Turkey to Sri Lanka in 9 days. And basically, all I did was have a call with my students, and then any like small events that came up, like maybe a student sent in homework, while I'm doing it, I just take a few extra days to do the homework. Or if I don't remember if we were flying on the day of one of my calls, but in the event that that kind of thing happens, I can easily reschedule or just cancel that group call for that day, right? So this gives me a lot of freedom and flexibility. It also moves me from time for money, right? Because I have to spend a little bit of time to bring in a student, but I get a lot more money for it, right? And then once that process is complete, the amount of time I need to do is pretty consistent no matter how many students come in, because everybody comes to the group calls. So I hope that you found this helpful, and I just wanted to share a little bit about my journey, because I know for a lot of yoga teachers out there, maybe you're struggling with, how do I teach yoga and make money, mostly so I can enjoy my life and do the things I want because I hate my job, and you want to travel, right? How do you fund your travels? You need something that doesn't depend on you being there. Recording your theory content and sharing your message in a course is the best way to do that. If you'd like to learn more, click the link down below in the description. I'll show you how to do it and get started. I'll see you inside.